Chapter 11 The Villain Father Arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Donglin Holy Land. One by one, the powerful practitioners stopped practicing and stared outside the sect, ta-ta-ta-ta. Among the clouds, there were bursts of footsteps, there are also the roars of strange beasts, even the disciples in front of the mountain gate were shocked. They raised their heads with strange expressions and said, "This movement is extraordinary. Are the recent rumors true? Is the Jiang family really coming to my Donglin Holy Land?" Roar. A savage roar, exuding the wildness of a ferocious beast, the practitioners below were trembling with qi and blood surging. Fortunately, the disciples who worshipped in Donglin Holy Land were not weak in cultivation, so there was no such thing as qi and blood boiling and gushing out of their throats. However, they were in a state of embarrassment. "It's inevitable." Hiss. "That is. Mr. Jiang." As the black horses descended one after another, these disciples no longer hesitated. They looked at the ferocious beasts with fierce flames and the cold soldiers wearing black armor riding on them, and no more doubts disappeared in their hearts, as 5 golden divine horses shimmering with divine brilliance pulled a jade chariot forward. A terrifying coercion filled the air. This was the wild nature inherent in the alien beasts, as if a great demon had descended, with a ferocious aura. Whoosh. Donglin Holy Land was not to be outdone. In just an instant, several middle-aged figures arrived. Each one of them had their hands behind their backs and looked indifferent, but they suppressed the arrogance of those strange beasts. Undoubtedly, they are all powerful practitioners in the venerable realm. They hold important positions such as mentors in Donglin Holy Land. They can resist all pressure for their disciples by simply flicking their sleeves. Call. It's our strong men from the Donglin sect who have come out. The disciples of the Donglin sect have pride on their faces. This is something they are born with. No matter how powerful the enemy is, they still have a strong sense of safety and belonging in the Donglin sect. Ho! The 5 golden horses shrouded in divine glory showed wildness in their pupils. They refused to be subdued. The fierce flames on their bodies gradually rose and filled the air. Call out. Along with the arrival of a peerless woman in red robes, she had picturesque features and a cold and arrogant expression, with a little cinnabar between her eyebrows. Her cold and arrogant eyes glanced at the 5 golden horses, and she was immediately frightened and lost all her arrogance. Whether it was the disciples within the sect or the middle-aged man who had just appeared, there was no pressure on him. He was silently relieved, but also filled with pride and enthusiasm. Xiao Rongyu, the leader of the Eastern Holy Land, at a young age, he is already in the human emperor realm. Even apart from his cultivation level, Xiao Rongyu's appearance has always been at the top. No one in the Donglin sect can match him. Even the Saint Xianxia of the Donglin sect is far behind. If we talk about it for a long time, compared with Xianxia's temperament, which has always been in high positions, it is far behind. Head. Xianxia hurriedly walked out of the chariot, and he also complained in his heart. This has already happened to Donglin sect. His father did not calm down, and the situation was so tense. He hurriedly walked out and said, "My father is here to meet my master." Wow! The disciples below showed their astonishment and curiosity. The rumors are true. Senior brother Xianxia has really become a disciple, but it's just who he wants to be his disciple. Xianxia has been to Donglin Holy Land for more than a day or two. He should have become a disciple a long time ago. How could it be delayed until now? Xiao Rongyu's expression was cold, his phoenix eyes rolled away, and he remained silent. The head of the Jiang family who was in the chariot also smiled softly and walked out of the jade chariot. For a moment, the entire sky fell into stillness, as if time had frozen at this moment. In fact, this was just because his cultivation was strong enough to a certain extent. When he walked out, everyone's eyes were fixed on him uncontrollably, ignoring everything around him. Stand calmly, but his body was filled with the pressure of a god and a demon, heart-stopping, inexplicably scared. He didn't even dare to look at the middle-aged man head-on. Wow! Flick your sleeves gently. Several items filled the sky. Everything is wrapped in radiant light. Number 1, the essence of purple jade. It is extracted from the rare purple jade in the world. Every drop needs to be brewed in the purple jade for thousands of years. Now there are probably more than 30 drops in this small jade screen. The value is terrifying and shocking. The second thing, 7-leaf sword grass, it is a sword grass born from the most terrifying sword valley. It absorbs sword power all day long. Every time a sword blade is born, the sword power will become stronger several times. It is the magic medicine in the hearts of sword cultivators. 4 petals are difficult to find in the market. Xianxia is even more valuable, the third thing. A weapon, it is not a normal magic weapon. It exudes overwhelming demonic nature. There is only one thought in the center of the gaze: kill, kill, kill. Such a terrifying demonic thought can be called a magic weapon, but it does not matter whether it is the disciples or the middle-aged man standing in midair. Exuding blazing heat, although it is a demonic weapon, if controlled, it will become a terrifying divine weapon. Not just these 3, there are 6 in total, permeated in the air, exudes a beautiful atmosphere, it makes even the emperor's heart flutter. Golan. Golan. So are the disciples below, those in middle age are fine too, all pounding heart. Xiao Rongyu, however, looked calm and said calmly, the eldest son of the Jiang family is going to become a disciple. Is this all? But with a smile on his lips, Xianxia shook his head and said, of course this is nothing. No matter how bad my son is, he is still the eldest son of the Jiang family. These things are just gifts to Donglin Holy Land to thank him for his years of cultivation. As for the apprenticeship ceremony, there are other things. Things. Surprises came and went. Near the Holy Land to the east, it's not just these disciples, there are also spies from all forces. Jiang made such a big move, they should naturally find out the truth. When Jiang Jinshan took out so many things before, they were jealous and secretly hated why Jiang Chen did not join Xiandao sect. Now they heard that this was just an appetizer and not a normal apprenticeship gift. They all swallowed their saliva and muttered, isn't this Jiang family too rich? Wow. Xiao Rongyu took a few things that made the emperor realm excited with a flick of his sleeves, and nodded slightly with his delicate chin. If Jiang family only took out these things as a apprenticeship gift, it would be really disappointing, and it would be a shame for Jiang family to make such a big fuss. Let's go. Enter the sect. Go to see your teacher. Jiang Jinshan smiled at the corner of his mouth, in a good mood, and took a step to Donglin sect. He was not unfamiliar with this place. He came here when his son visited the sect that year. Except for the sect's forbidden area, he went to all the places he should go. Now he went straight to the Sutra Pavilion. Wow. Outside the Donglin Holy Land, many fiery gazes wanted to follow, but unfortunately they could not enter the Donglin sect. They could only watch as the head of the Jiang family entered, hurriedly took out a communication device in his hand, and informed the Donglin sect of the latest progress. Chapter 12 Sacred Artifact. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Coming in. The head of the Jiang family has joined the Donglin sect. Is this direction? Sutra Tiding Pavilion. In the Holy Land of the East, there were also people watching the traces of the head of the Jiang family. They saw him heading straight to the Sutra Pavilion, with shock and confusion on their faces. In front of the Sutra Pavilion, Jiang Jinshan descended from nothingness and stood there quietly, looking at the 9-story pavilion in front of him, his expression shy and revealing his recollection. At that time, he also witnessed Elder Chu's unparalleled splendor, wearing a green shirt and wielding a sword, but compared to Xiao Rongyu, who was still a young girl, he has become somewhat famous in the eastern region, but I still dare not compare with this one. It's close now, I feel like I'm meeting an idol. There is also emotion and joy. Xiao Chen. Follow me to meet your master. Jiang Jinshan said softly. Inside the Sutra Pavilion, Chu Xun, who was sitting cross-legged and reading a book, felt something in his heart. He looked at the outside world and felt the excitement. He sighed in his heart and sighed, why bother? I wanted to read quietly, read scriptures, and occasionally practice martial arts, so that my life would be peaceful. That's it. Mr. Jiang is making such a fuss today. The eyes of the entire eastern region were focused on it. It is impossible to hide it any longer, but that didn't matter to him. if there is a human emperor in the Donglin Holy Land, it must be investigated clearly. Even if these forces don't think of themselves for a moment, they will eventually find out. Jiang Jinshan's appearance just exposed himself in advance. Furthermore, as long as you don't go down the mountain, exposed or not, it doesn't matter. After thinking about this, also put down the books in your hands, waiting quietly for the father and son. The 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion, Jiang Jinshan looked at the simple and ordinary old man sitting in front of him by the window. He was filled with emotions. All kinds of emotions came to his heart in an instant. He thought silently that if it hadn't been for that battle, Elder Chu would not have had his Taoist heart collapse. Painted on the ground and imprisoned for 60 years. Senior, Jiang Jinshan saluted. Logically speaking, he does not need to salute, regardless of one's own cultivation. He is still the head of the Jiang family. They can all afford to be on an equal footing with Chu Xun, but out of respect for his idol, especially this peerless swordsman who had broken through his heart and sat in the Sutra Pavilion for 60 years, who could have imagined where he would be after his enlightenment? A ray of consciousness disappeared into the past. Feel the state of Chu Xun. Jiang Jinshan's pupils shrank slightly. Even though the situation was calm on the surface, he despised Qian Zhonglang in his heart and secretly shouted, "How is it possible that he has just broken through the 4th level of the human emperor realm?" According to what an elder of the Jiang clan in the Donglin Holy Land said, Chu Xun and the Sutra Pavilion broke through their knots and escaped into the human emperor realm, allowing Jiang Chen to become his disciple. All this took less than 2 months. But went straight to the 4th realm of the human emperor, so terrifying. He thought back to himself, he is also considered a genius. How long did it take to go from the 1st heaven of the human emperor to the 4th heaven? It seems like 7 years. For a while, the admiration for Chu Xun became even stronger. He is worthy of being the most magnificent sword god of his time. He is worthy of being a senior who immediately became the human emperor once he had an epiphany. You and I, our peers, don't need to salute. Chu Xun said calmly. With his eyesight, he could naturally see that the master of the Jiang family had a very high level of cultivation, even stronger than himself. The aura on his body was almost the same even if he was not at the peak of the human emperor realm. Jiang Jinshan also nodded gently, with a gentle smile on his face. He was not at all arrogant or conceited outside. He spoke calmly. I heard Xiaochen said that he became a disciple of Elder Chu. Jiang and I are both very happy for Xiaochen. I attach great importance to this opportunity, so I am here to visit Elder Chu on behalf of you. The skill of speaking, Jiang Jinshan also gently flicked his sleeves. Buzz. Several light groups reappeared. It's just compared to being outside the gate of Donglin Holy Land, what appeared this time was more intense and cherished. The first ball of purple light, wrapped with several large medicinal plants, it is filled with a strong medicinal fragrance, and I dare not say that it can bring life and death to human flesh and white bones, but if it is used to make elixirs, it can definitely create excellent elixirs. The second ball of light, there is a sword grass. In the air, 9-leaf sword grass, it is more than 1 grade higher than what was given in front of the sect. As for a few other things, not bad at all. The most precious thing is the last item, a cauldron, permeated with the aura of the holy way, surrounded by golden light, wisps of sacred breath filled the air, holy artifact. Alchemy furnace. Jiang Jinshan chuckled and said, I heard from Xiaochen that Elder Chu occasionally made alchemy in his spare time. He happened to find a cauldron from Zhang's treasure house and sent it over. In addition, there were some good medicinal herbs that Elder Chu could try in his spare time. Chu Xun showed a strange expression. When he gave Jiang Chen the Breaking Realm pill, he just made a casual remark. Unexpectedly, Jiang took it seriously. No wonder so many things he sent were mainly medicinal herbs. Also, that alchemy furnace is also extraordinary, sacred vessel, extremely rare. Jiang Chen also had a glow on his face, secretly praising his father for his strength. Many people in the Donglin Holy Land were also paying attention to this scene. As their minds fell, they all opened their eyes wide when they saw the suspended alchemy furnace. They kept smacking their tongues and said, the Jiang family of the ancient family is really terrifying. Sacred vessel, alchemy furnace, even with a terrifying force like Donglin Holy Land, they only have a handful of holy weapons in their hands, and each one is extremely precious. As for the rarer holy weapons like the alchemy furnace, there are none at all. Who would have thought that the Jiang family would be so generous as to directly send a holy-level alchemy furnace? If this was put up for auction outside, it could be exchanged for 2 or even 3 holy items of the same level. Generous, what a generous act, they lamented. I also realized that Jiang had spent a lot of money this time. This kind of sacred-level alchemy furnace was nothing when the Jiang family was at its peak, but if it were now, the number would probably be limited. Being able to take out one directly shows respect. Good. Chu Xun nodded gently, didn't refuse. This is the apprenticeship ceremony, it's what you deserve. A wave of sleeves. Everything has fallen into Qianquan's sleeve. I also secretly sighed in my heart. No wonder in the previous life, I read novels where the villains were always swaying, and they tried their best to attack. At this level, how could he not have friends? Who is shaken and who does not contribute? At the same time, Immortal Sect, Main Hall. 4 old men with different appearances gathered together. The old man with a long beard said, "The Jiang family has a close relationship with Donglin Holy Land. This is not a good thing for us." Jiang Chen had this premonition when he became a disciple of Donglin Holy Land. Now the relationship between the two parties is even closer, and I want to know who Jiang Chen has become his disciple, so that the Jiang family made such a big fuss. That's all if I worship the saint from the Holy Land of the East, but it's the Sutra Pavilion. It can't be a saint. A slight pause, an old man said slowly, "Perhaps, I'm going to give it to someone." The few people who were arguing immediately paused, their brows furrowed involuntarily, and they murmured solemnly, "If it's really him, he's really in trouble." Trouble? What's the trouble? Back then, he was unparalleled and unparalleled. He suppressed an era with one hand. I don't say anything. But what time is it now? An old guy who has tied himself to a place and made a prison for 60 years has been completely ruined. Even the younger generation among the younger generations. We have all arrived at the human emperor realm, so what's the point of breaking through the knot in his heart and entering the human emperor realm at this time? His time has passed. 60 years of delay. He has already been eliminated. A red-haired old man's face was full of contempt, ridicule, disdain, and deep malice. The rest of the people frowned at first, and then nodded in recognition of this truth. It didn't matter whether he was the one who had the sudden enlightenment in the Sutra Pavilion. If he dared to jump out of the Sutra Pavilion, he would be suppressed with one hand. Chapter 13. Read 500 volumes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Same reason, Xianxia sect, Tianji sect, Zhenwu zone, these major forces in the Holy Land of the Eastern Territory were also paying close attention to the movements of the Holy Land in the East. When Xianxia entered the Sutra Pavilion, the elders all thought of Chu Xun, first, solemn, contempt followed, and disdainful, 60 years of desolation. Let them who were not as good as Chu Xun in the past have grown to unimaginable heights, and then faced with the arrogance in his words of the past, they did not think that a person who had been disabled for 60 years would quickly catch up with them. They who were still solemn at first immediately averted their eyes and no longer worried about this matter. They only thought it was a trivial matter. It was only because Jiang was too serious and made such a big move that they thought he was worshipping a saint. Besides, it's not necessarily someone who has broken through. Maybe that guy is still depressed and confused. He hasn't gotten over that hurdle in 60 years. How could he make a breakthrough now by such a coincidence? Elder Chu. If you need anything in the future, just tell Xiaochen. Mr. Jiang will never make any excuses. Jiang Chen's smile became even wider. The more powerful his son became as a disciple, the more relieved he would naturally be. Especially for Elder Chu, who has accumulated a lot of experience and has a calm mind, which is far beyond the comparison of ordinary practitioners. This kind of experience has allowed his life to settle down, even if he is now a cultivator. If it is slightly weaker, it will also improve rapidly in the next time. There's quite a bit of it. Chu Xun's eyes revealed a strange color, and he glanced at the scriptures in the scripture pavilion. The scriptures on the 8th floor were only enough for him to comprehend for a while, and the scriptures on the 9th floor were too profound. I haven't developed other hobbies that have accumulated in the scripture pavilion over the years. but I have developed a love for reading. There are not many scriptures in Donglin Holy Land, and I want to ask the Jiang family master for some. Well, Xianxia was stunned, thought, so rude. This is too private, this is scripture, it can be big or small, it is said that it is the treasure of a sect, how can it be easily externalized? It is said that it is just a few scriptures, which is not worth mentioning. But since Elder Chu opened his mouth, is it a matter of a few scriptures? At the very least, he must get it there are 3,000 to 5,000 copies, and it cannot be mixed with ordinary things, otherwise it will be a fool, but it will be thankless. Good. Okay. This is easy to talk about, Xianxia immediately put on a smile. When someone else said this, he would feel that it was so shameless. He was just being polite and you were taking it seriously. Didn't you take it seriously? But when Elder Chu said it, his face was full of joy, and he secretly sighed. Elder Chu does not regard himself as an outsider. Stop briefly, the two chatted for a while. Jiang Jinshan realized how knowledgeable Elder Chu was, and silently thought that he was indeed a senior who had read almost all the scriptures of Donglin Holy Land. He really wanted to have a discussion, but time was limited and he could only give up, with farewell. In the east of the Holy Land, father and son hang out. Jiang Chen looked calm and said, Dad, how is my teacher? Jiang Jinshan glanced at his son, looking at his pretending to be calm and indifferent, and cursed, why are you pretending to be a fool in front of me? Just show it off if you want to make me happy. He nodded calmly and said seriously, a late bloomer, you have accumulated a lot of experience. Jiang Chen was slightly startled, even though I thought my father would give me high praise, but these 8 words. But it sums up everything. The corners of his mouth turned up into a smile unconsciously. Inside the Sutra Pavilion, as the father and son left, Chu Xun felt a little uneasy in his heart and silently thought about what he could get if he invested in the protagonist of destiny. After racking his brains for a long time, he muttered, I'm afraid there is only one villain with a background as big as the sky, and countless troubles. Invest in destiny villains, so delicious. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He picked up the scripture in his hand and started to read it. A bit of curiosity arose in my heart. Calculate the time, is it time for me to accumulate the next reward? I wanted to check how many scriptures I had read, but after thinking about it, I felt that it was too deliberate. Let everything take its course. There is no need to go down the mountain anyway, and there is no need to deliberately improve your cultivation. Just let nature take its course, read the scriptures, practice calligraphy in your spare time, occasionally overlooking the sect's Qi Shu. Before I knew it, several more days had passed. Congratulations to the host, successfully read 500 scriptures. The reward is a Taishan sword, a copy of the 8 desolate palms, and a chance for enlightenment. Chu Xun had a smile in his eyes, nodding silently. Good, just as I expected. These 500 volumes of scriptures were really completed in these few days, and the harvest came as expected. Let's explore what it is first. Taishan sword. A green 3-foot green sword fell on the palm of his hand, floating there quietly. The sword was surrounded by wisps of human emperor's aura, and there was a slight trembling of the spirit of the weapon, like resonance, like joy. Taishan sword, a divine weapon in the human emperor realm, comes with its own weapon spirit. It is a top-notch weapon in the same territory. It is especially difficult to forge as it is good at killing with swordsmanship. Normally, the sword-making master has already made human emperor-level killing magic weapons. Each one is extremely sharp and cannot be mastered by ordinary people. Even if the human emperor wants to tame it, it takes a lot of effort, but the current Taishan sword is completely different. As gentle as jade, without any flaws, the gentle weapon spirit has no violent aura. Even ordinary practitioners can master it. This is how rare this magic weapon is, but that doesn't mean Taishan sword is weak. Put in Chu Xun's hand, this gentle and harmless divine weapon can burst out a monstrous sword intent. Even those demonic swords with monstrous demonic flames will tremble and dare not fight with it. Excellent. Chu Xun nodded gently, then he looked at the second thing, 8 desolate palms. A palm method, from a certain novel world, divided into 3 levels, entry level, minor success, and major success. The entry level requires the lowest level of cultivation in the human emperor realm. If you master it, you can cross 3 minor realms to fight against the enemy. Minor success requires opportunity to comprehend. If you master it, you can be invincible in the same realm, and as for the major success, it is not inferior to the palm method of the saint. It fits me very well. Chu Xun's eyes were full of spirit. With his current cultivation and realm, if he was really given the great saint-level secret technique, the emperor-level inheritance would be too much for him. This is the most suitable one. If you master it initially, your combat power will soar. It is not difficult to get started. You only need to practice for a period of time, one chance for enlightenment. This kind of thing does not need to be explained in Chu Xun's view. It is already very straightforward. Opportunity for sudden enlightenment can be used for everything, whether it is practicing supernatural powers, breaking through realms, or gaining spiritual enlightenment. One can fall into sudden enlightenment and achieve incredible breakthroughs, without too much explanation. Excellent. Chu Xun's face was full of smiles. This time the reward was very suitable for him, and it was something that could be used by everyone. He murmured, "This is something else to do besides reading the scriptures." Chapter 14 8 Desolate Palms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few days later, in the back mountain, an old man bathed in the moonlight. His hair was white like silk, and he exuded a desolate and withered power, affecting the surrounding plants and trees, causing the flowers and plants full of vitality to wither. 8 Desolate Palms. Too profound. Chu Xun whispered softly. This was his first time practicing the 8 desolate palms. With the inheritance of mind, he fell into a wonderful world. After a dizzy spell, it seemed as if he had come to another vast world. On the earth, the road was flat and there was no end in sight. However, there was a wild air that came to his face. It was not only around him, but lingered in the whole world, withering, desolation, deathly silence. It was the main theme of this world. Sitting cross-legged here, he felt powerless and insignificant from his heart, and fear spread from the deepest part of his soul, as if there was no other destination in this world except desolation and deathly silence. Even if he wanted to return to the previous world, he couldn't do it. There was only one choice: to understand the meaning of desolation. Master the 8 desolate palms. In addition, there is no other possibility. Fortunately, Chu Xun, who had long been accustomed to sitting in the Sutra Library, was able to keep his breath and slowly closed his eyes to feel the power of desolation. Unlike the sharpness of the sword and the domineering of the knife, desolation is everywhere, always lurking around, or surging in the twilight of old age. Feel this trace of desolation, filled with withering, quietly comprehend. His body also exudes a kind of dead silence, affecting the surroundings, like the darkness that swallows the night, spreading over. At first, it only covered a few feet around him. Let the lush flowers and plants wither and turn yellow, but as time passed, this field is also gradually expanding. 10 feet. 20 feet, hundreds of feet. Fortunately, there are not many people who come to the back mountain to practice. Even if some birds and beasts accidentally enter this field, the instinct of life smells the crisis and quickly retreats, unknowingly forming 2 strange paintings here. The area where Chu Xun was sitting cross-legged and practicing was in a dead silence, filled with gloom and ominousness, and all the life within the area was dead, while outside the area, it was early spring, full of vitality, and lush flowers, plants and trees. This scene was too weird. If the area was expanded further, it would cause a lot of noise. Rarely, this 100-foot area stopped here. No matter how time passed, it was always this distance and no longer encroached on the outside. The old Taoist sitting cross-legged there, the aura of dusk on his body was getting stronger and stronger. This sitting, it was several days. There was also the previous scene. As Chu Xun opened his eyes, his pupils were filled with endless desolation and withering. Dead silence was the only main theme inside, which also affected the withering of the whole body. In an instant, all the flowers, plants and trees were completely dead. Even the fish and shrimps in the river beside him turned white, and their vitality was ruined. 8 desolate palms. Too profound. Chu Xun murmured, and he understood why this technique had the power to fight across borders. He practiced it mainly based on a state of mind. The power of desolation spread, making people despair in an instant, and falling into endless darkness and self-blame. In this situation, how could they be opponents with their strength reduced? But it was too difficult to practice. If it weren't for the inheritance, he was afraid that he would not be able to comprehend it for many years. Saint level, Chu Xun murmured softly. He lowered his head slightly. He also noticed his own abnormality, desolation, deathly silence. The state of sadness was too strong. If someone was beside him, he would unconsciously think of the sad past and couldn't help but shed tears. This was a state of mind that affected him too deeply, from the inside out. He exhaled a breath of turbid air. He gently brushed his sleeves. Rich vitality spread from the whole body, and the withered flowers and plants were full of vitality again. The fish and shrimps that were buried due to lack of vitality also came back to life, splashing a wave with a tumble, and then dived into the river again. Swish, took a light step, going directly back to the Sutra Library, picked up the scriptures, muttered softly, comprehending the 8 desolate palms has too much impact on the state of mind. I will adjust the chi around my body first. Reading in the Sutra Library is undoubtedly a great way to cultivate the mind. In a hurry, it was a few days, a disciple walked out of the Sutra Library and sighed, and said with doubt, I always feel depressed in the Sutra Library these 2 days, with sadness and sorrow in my heart, but I don't know the reason. Is it because the pressure of practice these days is too great? Can't practice anymore. Go and relax, come back in 2 days. Sure enough, after a few days, this disciple went back to the Sutra Library to study again. The desolate and sad mood in his heart dissipated. With a satisfied smile on his face, he nodded to himself and said, it seems that cultivation requires a combination of work and rest. Chu Xun on the 8th floor of the Sutra Library also had a gentle and satisfied look in his eyes. After a few days of reading, the old and desolate mood on his body had all dissipated, and his aura was no different from that of ordinary people. A figure flashed. He appeared outside the Sutra Library again. This time he was in the depths of the back mountain, which was already on the edge of the Donglin Holy Land. He stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the continuous mountains in front of him, and his mouth corners slightly raised, muttering, I have been practicing for many days, but I haven't tried the power yet. Try it out. Move your hands. Spread out 5 fingers, shoot forward. Boom, the clouds were suddenly shaken, and a huge and boundless palm print appeared. The 5 fingers were as huge as the Optimus pillars, and textures could be seen on each one. The palm was even more vast, like the ravine spreading in it, top down, called a repressive stance. There was even more desolate aura coming towards the face, covering the palm of the hand, causing several huge mountain peaks to fall into withering and death in an instant. The trees rotted, and as the palm descended, several mountain peaks were directly flattened, leaving a gap. Huge palm, swish, swish, swish. Such a big movement should have alarmed Donglin Holy Land. In an instant, several figures arrived. It is no longer the realm of the Venerable, led by the sect master Xiao Rongyu. Several figures arrived in an instant. They were the 5 human emperors of the Donglin sect. They looked solemnly, staring at the remaining palm prints in front of them, and said in shock, who is this powerful person? Didn't you say anything and came near my Donglin sect? What a terrifying power of desolation. This remaining palm print is at least in the 7th realm of the human emperor. What is the purpose of this palm coming from the mountain behind my east side of the Holy Land? Several powerful people in the human emperor realm all showed solemnity. Looking at the Donglin sect, there were only 2 strong people in the 7th human emperor realm. Moreover, some strong person left this palm mark at will. Who knows if it was the means of his devoting all his strength? Wow! Xiao Rongyu stepped forward and came to the area flattened by the palm prints. Feeling the remaining aura, he frowned slightly and a figure suddenly appeared in his mind. He thought about it for a while and then gave it up. He murmured, he just broke through the human emperor realm. Soon, his cultivation level is at the 2nd level of the human emperor, so it is impossible for him to have this strength, and besides, this desolate power is not within his control. The 2 old men who were playing chess in the clouds were also here. They also thought of Elder Chu and quickly ruled it out. They thought it was impossible. Elder Chu practiced swordsmanship and was not proficient in palm skills, let alone such a powerful desolate power. Extremely powerful palm print. Perhaps the person who wields the palm has not reached the seventh realm of the human emperor. It's just that this palm technique is too terrifying, and it gives us misunderstandings. At this time, an elder from the Jiang family who held an important position in Donglin Holy Land came out to comment and felt that although the palm print was terrifying, it did not look like it was left behind by the seventh realm of the human emperor. That's fine. No matter what purpose the mysterious strong man has. During this period, it is always right to be cautious within the sect. Several powerful people communicated with each other, but when the corner of their eyes fell in the direction of the Sutra Pavilion, they also expressed emotion. As expected of Elder Chu, who has been in the Sutra Pavilion for 60 years, he didn't even take a look at such a big movement happening here. There is no desire, not even a ray of divine consciousness comes to me, so calm. Chapter 15 The Future Empress. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Xun didn't know what they were thinking. After a palm fell, satisfied with the power of the palm technique, then he pulled away and left. He returned to the Sutra Pavilion in a flash and missed them perfectly. I don't know what these people are thinking, even if you know, too lazy to explain. It's just a palm technique that I have learned. Have nothing to say, pick up the scripture, read again. The days were passed in a carefree manner. Unconsciously, it's more than a month again, this day. A nervous little head poked out from the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion, which stunned Chu Xun who was studying. The secret books of the human emperor realm were stored on the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion. Ordinary disciples could not enter at all, even powerful people in the sect could not enter. The person also needs to nod his head and obtain a token before he can come in. And how did this little girl get here? Are you Elder Chu? The little girl stuck out her little head and looked at him curiously with shining black eyes. Just as Chu Xun was about to speak, he opened his eyes with a feeling of bliss and looked slowly. Name, Li Yao Qi. Age, 4 years old. Cultivation, body refining realm. Luck, purple black, villain. Life review, the future empress has been married to her childhood sweetheart, the protagonist of destiny, since her cultivation. It is a legend in the spiritual world. Unfortunately, she has a special physique. On the wedding night, the protagonist of destiny tried to usurp the soul, but unexpectedly. After being deprived by the counterattack, a generation of female emperors, the Empress of Yaoqi, was born. However, the protagonist of destiny did not die. Instead, he was strangely reborn. Hundreds of years later, he rose from a remote corner, grew up step by step, and finally defeated the Empress of Yaoqi to regain his old luck. The evaluation of his life is tragic. TSK. Chu Xun's eyes showed a strange color. This life evaluation, it looked so familiar. It was a classic in the previous life, and was crazily used by internet writers. The opening line has been tried and tested many times, but I didn't expect that I would also meet the real author. What brings you here? Li Yaoqi pinched the corners of his clothes nervously and said, Can I read a scripture here? Chu Xun pondered slightly. The scriptures on the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion were so easy to understand. However, according to the rules, anyone who came to this floor was qualified to view the human emperor's scriptures. He nodded lightly and acquiesced to this girl. Ask. Call. Li Yaoqi let out a long breath, moved carefully, and came to the corner of the scripture depository pavilion, holding a scripture and pretending to read it. This made Chu Xun, who was sitting cross-legged, find it funny. Even if the human emperor's scriptures are at the venerable level, they need to be carefully understood. Can this little girl understand the reason? He shook his head and stopped paying attention. No. No. Don't catch me. A tone of horror came from the corner. Chu Xun also frowned and put down the scroll in his hand, and walked slowly. He saw that the pretty little girl had already fallen asleep leaning on the wall, and just now she was mumbling in her sleep. This also made Chu Xun slightly surprised. It stands to reason that this little girl must be extraordinary if she can come to the 8th floor of the Tibetan scripture pavilion. How could she still have nightmares in her sleep? Moreover, the little girl's pale face and the water droplets on her forehead, it's more like recalling old memories. System. Can I check the life evaluation further? Can. Host, Li Yaoqi. Life rating, born in an ancient tradition, separated from his parents due to civil strife, raised by old servants since childhood, discovered by hostile forces a few months ago, entered the courtyard in torrents of blood, and beheaded Uncle Fu in front of the little girl, imprisoned her, and was found by her father at the critical moment. Although he rescued her, he also gained a knot in his heart. Furthermore, the little girl was not happy when she was brought back to the Taoist tradition. Her father was immersed in cultivation all day long, and the Taoist tradition had strict rules. Apart from giving instructions to practice, he was strict and harsh all day long. No wonder, Chu Xun's eyes softened a bit. He didn't expect that the future Empress of Yaoqi would still have such a miserable childhood, and then thought about her subsequent experiences. Even if she met the protagonist of destiny, he still hoped to seize her soul. It must be said that such a miserable life, he was not surprised that he would counterattack in the future and become the destiny villain, and even sympathized with him. In the Sutra Pavilion. Someone just saw it, that there were two grey-robed servants downstairs hurried upstairs. Although there was anxiety on their faces, they were not worried about Li Yaoqi's safety. They were panicking because they had not taken good care of Li Yaoqi and let her run away. They were worried that they could not bear the responsibility, evil servant. Not really, just be selfish, human nature. No one is here, you two go downstairs. When approaching the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion, a light voice fell into the ears of the two servants, making the latter stunned, and raised his head to look at the man standing in front of him. A blurry figure hesitated slightly and retreated from the Jing Pavilion, at the same time. 2 hours later, accompanied by the murmur in her sleep, the little girl suddenly opened her eyes. First she saw the scene around her and the old man sitting cross-legged there. She instinctively froze and murmured, "No one bothered me," that she still remembered that since Uncle Fu left, the strange man had brought her into a Taoist tradition, where he practiced all day long. Because he had been living outside for several years, he missed the Taoist tradition's special enlightenment for children and the carrying of spiritual essence. As a result, her cultivation was slower than that of her peers. Since then, there have been endless urgings. Obviously, most children at her age are innocent, but what greeted her was the death of her only relative, Uncle Fu, and endless practice. She was frequently awakened by servants from her sleep to urge her to practice. Not even giving her any free time, she was really tired. This time when her mother went out and came to Donglin's sect, she was tired of the servants following her and deliberately looked for a quiet place. Unexpectedly, the servants didn't find them this time and instead let herself sleep peacefully. The little cheeks are full of satisfaction, but when she saw the old man who was still reading the scriptures, he moved downstairs cautiously, for fear of disturbing him. When he was about to walk out of the 8th floor of the scripture collection pavilion, the little girl also whispered, "Thank you." Chu Xun turned to look at the innocent and nervous little girl, and sighed in his heart. Who would have thought that the Empress who would rule the world in the future would be content and happy to have a good sleep at this time, even if it was a nightmare, so unsatisfied with emotion. Sigh softly. In his opinion, Li Yaoqi's destiny is the best candidate for investment. Unfortunately, the current investment opportunities have been exhausted, and the original host is too poor. He has been in bondage for 60 years and has nothing to offer. I just got a Tai Xin sword. Although I won't use it, it's not appropriate to give it to this little girl. I felt a headache even when I shook my head. As the villain of investment destiny, forget it, there are no investment opportunities now. I don't even have anything to offer, which is a bit shabby to say the least. Chapter 16 Commissioned Auction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, the little girl came over with a tired face. She must have been nagged a lot last night. When she saw the gloomy eyes in the corner of the Sutra Pavilion, hope bloomed, as if this was her sanctuary and her place of refuge. Chu Xun, who was in the Sutra Pavilion, naturally saw this scene, and was touched in his heart. His eyes were filled with distress, but he said calmly, "The sutra I studied yesterday is still there. If you don't understand it, continue reading." Li Yaoqi nodded heavily. This time he was not as scared as yesterday. He slowly came to the corner, leaned against the wall, and fell asleep after just a few breaths. His young face could only be peaceful after a deep sleep. In this way, for several days, Chu Xun was also somewhat familiar with the little girl, but there were still not many topics between them. Every time the little girl came here, she was exhausted. Under the supervision of her mother and servants, she had no chance to rest at all, and this became her sanctuary. It's time to prepare a few things. This time after the little girl left, Chu Xun also murmured silently. As an investor of the Destiny Villain, investment opportunities may come at any time, but the investment items are not necessarily. It happens that there will be a grand auction in Tianbao City not long ago, and he can choose from it. Click on investment items. Only a moment passed, then an elder came to the Sutra Pavilion. Following Chu Xun's explanation, the elder also showed a satisfied look. Chu Xun entrusted him to send something for auction. The spirit stones obtained were used to bid for several items, including jade pendants and jewelry for self-defense, or items that could be used to invest in villains. As for the transaction, after completing the task, he will point out the elder once, the latter left happily. Eastern region. Tianbao City, it belongs to a unique city. It is not affiliated with the 6 Holy Lands, nor does it belong to the ancient aristocratic family Jiang. There is no city owner in the city, but it is run by various major forces, including a Chamber of Commerce, Wanbao Chamber of Commerce, responsible for auctioning and selling various items. Reputation and quality are guaranteed, deeply trusted by people in the East region. Today, Wanbao Chamber of Commerce, the annual auction is here again. This is not an ordinary level, the auctions are all top quality. It only took a quarter of an hour for the auction house to fill up quickly. Whether it was the VIP room or the hall below, there were countless people looking at the excited crowd around them. Some newcomers sighed with emotion. There are too many people here. It only took a quarter of an hour to fill up the house. Awesome. I also saw a lot of big shots entering the VIP room. There is even a senior human emperor. That the voices of exclamation kept coming and going, and this atmosphere, it lasted a moment, with the ringing of bells, also suppressed the noisy sounds. I saw an old man with a red face coming from behind the auction table. He knocked on the auction table with a small hammer and said excitedly, "Everyone, be quiet. This auction is about to begin. I, Li Yang, am the main auctioneer of this auction. Thank you all for participating. I believe that your trip will be worthwhile." Ha! It's actually Master Li Yang. That's strange. Isn't it usually a beautiful female auctioneer who opens the show? Could it be that? These people's eyes lit up. I vaguely guessed something. 2 beautiful women with excellent figures worked together to carry a wooden tray and walk to the auction stage. Li Yang was not in a hurry to reveal it, but instead said with a smile, "Many people may wonder why I am hosting the auction for the first item. To be honest, I just received a consignor to auction it yesterday. This item is too precious. I wanted to put it on the box pressing axis, but thinking that this is another annual auction, I boldly put it first to start. Have to say, this old auctioneer has his own tricks." A few concise sentences. It not only arouses curiosity in people's hearts, it also allowed the chaotic thoughts to be gathered together, and Quan Jing looked attentively. Buzz. As Li Yang untied the red cloth, revealing a simple and wordless sword, the crowd was still waiting quietly for Li Yang's introduction. The latter slowly said, "This sword is the first item in this auction, a human emperor-level weapon. Tai Xian sword." In an instant, fell into a brief silence, then there was an explosion. Nothing else. No matter how gentle the human emperor realm divine weapon is, it still exhibits terrifying murderous intent, which cannot be controlled by ordinary people. However, this sword is too gentle, and it does not release even a trace of viciousness. If Li Yang hadn't personally presided over it, people would have thought it was an ordinary sword. Impossible. The human emperor realm magic weapon is so precious. This sword is too ordinary. I don't see any bright spots. Whisper, there is constant chaos. Li Yang also waited quietly for a lull in the discussion below, and then gathered his strength. His deep voice spread throughout the venue, and he sighed with emotion. "I was shocked when I first met the gods. How could there be such a gentle sword? It seems that everyone it can be controlled, however, when a wisp of human emperor energy permeates this divine weapon, I will no longer question it. Buzz. Only seen, Taixian's sword trembled slightly, suspended in mid-air, wisps of the human emperor's aura lingered, like a sacred sword. Hiss, that this time, no one can sit still anymore, all showed strong horror, it's really, a human emperor-level magic weapon. This object is too precious. Not only is the sword gentle, but it is also full of lethality. When it breaks out, it is more terrifying than the monstrous demonic soldiers. As Li Yang mastered the sword, the sharp sword intent filled the field, making people's pupils shrink. Top-grade weapon. It's hard to find a weapon that can match it among the weapons of the human emperor realm. It's hard to match it even among ordinary half-step saint weapons. This trip is worth it. It's worth it just for this sword, that even the strong men in the VIP room were in a state of confusion and were shocked. VIP room number 4, Xianxia was also among them. He came here to auction a few things casually, but he didn't expect that the first thing he saw was this shocking divine sword. He also practiced swordsmanship, but his first thought was not for himself, but for his teacher. His eyes were filled with brilliance, and he murmured, "If this sword is given to the master, I'm afraid he will be happy for a long time." That seeing that the atmosphere below was brewing enough, Li Yang smiled. The auction begins. No low price, that he is now looking forward to what price this divine weapon can be auctioned at, and wonders if it can break the record in recent years. 30 top-grade spirit stones. 50 top-grade spirit stones. 100 top-grade spirit stones. The currency of the eastern region is still mainly spirit stones, which are divided into low-grade spirit stones, medium-grade spirit stones, high-grade spirit stones, and top-grade spirit stones. One top-grade spirit stone is equivalent to thousands of top-grade spirit stones. Although the current price is a bit shabby and feels unworthy of the Taixian sword, in fact, the initial starting price is already very high, the bidding is still going on, the price is also rising sharply. VIP room number 7, young man said in a steady voice, "Junior brother Yi, this magic weapon is good, do you want to bid?" That the others also looked over, they showed respect to the disciple named Yi. They came from the Xiandao sect. Junior brother Ye's name is Yi Chen, he had previously worshipped in the Donglin Holy Land. It seems that he offended Jiang Chen, he was expelled from the sect, and this guy's talent is also exceptionally evil. In a short period of time, he caused a lot of waves in the Xiandao sect and broke many records. These brothers all realized Yi Chen's talent. As long as he didn't die, he would have a place in the future of the eastern region. Therefore, he spoke kindly and was the leader of them. Yi Chen's eyes were filled with obscure brilliance. He was also tempted by this magic sword at first. It could perfectly fit him and he could master it even if he was in the Dharma realm. However, he was about to give up after hearing the terrifying bidding. This trip was purposeful and targeted. He didn't come for this magic sword. He was about to refuse it, suddenly heard a familiar voice, stunned, "Jiang Chen." Yi Chen murmured uncertainly. When he heard it again and again and was completely sure, the resentment and anger in his heart broke out together. He gritted his teeth and said, "You bastard, although I can't use this magic sword, don't think about getting it honestly." Chapter 17 Auction Trouble. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 7,000 top-quality spiritual stones. 8,000 top-quality spiritual stones. 9,000 top-quality spiritual stones. Auctioneer Li Yang, who was on the auction stage, was almost grinning. Although this human emperor-level magic weapon was not ordinary, it was worth 5,000 or 6,000 top-grade spiritual stones, which he thought was quite satisfying. Who knew that two idiots would raise their bar? Although this happens often, but they are all small items, unlike now, where the price skyrocketed at every turn. Looking at this situation, it would not be unusual for him to break through 10,000 top-quality spiritual stones. That smile is brilliant. Jiang Chen's face turned dark in the VIP room number 4. Many people had recognized him and were willing to buy Donglin Holy Land or the Jiang family to save face. They were not prepared to compete. They were about to win 4,000 top-quality spiritual stones. Who would have thought that a ruthless guy would come in and help him obtain 9,000 top-grade spiritual stones for this divine sword, and it was still growing. That's it. That's it. Young Master Jiang. Although this product is good, it has exceeded the standard. A clan elder tried to dissuade him and came with Jiang Chen. No. Jiang Chen's eyes were filled with wildness. This was the divine sword that he was prepared to honor his master. No matter how high the price was, it was worth it. There was no way he would just give up. To the east is the Holy Land, Sutra Pavilion. Chu Xun, who was studying, also rarely put down his books, looked at the outside world, and murmured, "I don't know what price Taixian's sword will be auctioned for, I guess it won't be bad." Think twice about the experience, he still decided to give up Taixian's sword. There are multiple reasons. First, this sword is somewhat useless to me. I have no chance to use the sword in Donglin Holy Land. It is just a decoration and I will not use it every 6 months. Secondly, as my cultivation level has improved by leaps and bounds, I can no longer look down on the Taixian sword even when I use a sword. Thirdly, Donglin Holy Land has rich heritage. If you need to use a sword temporarily, you can definitely get one. Even if it is slightly inferior, it will not affect its use, so think again. There is little point in keeping this sword with you. On the contrary, there was something in the Tianbao city auction that moved Chu Xun's heart, so he entrusted an elder from the sect to bid on his behalf, thus creating the scene in Tianbao city. Thoughts gathered, shake his head. Knowing that Tianbao city's affairs are not something that he can interfere with, what should be done has been done, and the rest is left to God's fate. Do your best and obey God's will. Walk out of the Sutra Pavilion. I thought of that little girl again for no reason. It's so pitiful and heartbreaking. A thought came to my mind. Then he found Li Yaoqi. Grandpa Chu. Li Yaoqi, who was practicing, looked at the old man who suddenly arrived. His clear black eyes were full of surprises and surprises. After many days of getting along with him, he was no longer a stranger to her. I'm practicing. Then let me take you somewhere, okay? Good. As a burst of light enveloped Li Yaoqi, the two figures disappeared here, leaving only a lingering voice echoing, "I'll take the little girl to go for a walk in the back mountain, worry-free." Back mountain. As the two figures came to a lush grassland, Li Yaoqi's eyes were full of joy, not only for the beautiful scenery here, but also for leaving the place that bothered her. The servants were always watching, as if to guard against evildoers. This kind of surveillance made her feel completely uncomfortable. I didn't bring you here to let you hang out, but also to let you practice. Chu Xun asked with a smile on his lips, "Are you willing?" Li Yaoqi nodded heavily. Anyway, she was used to practicing all day long during these days. Besides, she could accept it as long as it was not a monitored practice. Well, I'll teach you a palm technique. See if you can master it. As Chu Sunpan sat there, an aura of desolation suddenly filled his body, causing the vibrant flowers and plants to wither and wither at a speed visible to the naked eye. This scene caught Li Yaoqi's attention. It was different from repeating a few boring steps all day long. It was completely different and novel. He looked forward to it and wanted to go. Try to understand the power of desolation first. Chu Xun said with a smile on his lips. Good. Li Yaoqi nodded heavily and came to the position where Chu Xun had just sat cross-legged. Wherever there was still the power of desolation, he closed his eyes and followed Chu Xun's guidance, slowly feeling the aura of desolation. Seeing this little girl practicing seriously, Chu Xun also had a smile on his face. He didn't expect her to master it in a moment. In short, he felt the desolate atmosphere before leaving Donglin Holy Land, and he was ready to teach this palm technique thoroughly. After accompanying the little girl into meditation, Chu Xun also sat cross-legged beside him and began to practice. Feel the desolate atmosphere. Time passes quickly. It took 2 hours in the blink of an eye. Chu Xun, who was about to call the little girl up, was suddenly startled, feeling the traces of desolation. As he turned his head, he was stunned, because the little girl's body was really filled with traces of desolation. Although very shallow, but he could still clearly see it in his eyes, having already mastered the power of desolation. Looking at the little girl sitting quietly, his heart suddenly trembled. She was really a cute and talented little girl. It was a pity that she had a miserable childhood, and even the destiny she encountered in the future. The protagonist also has evil intentions, not just love. Wanbao Auction House. 13,000 top-quality spiritual stones. The other junior brothers looked nervously, and one of them even said, "Junior brother Yi, is the price too high? I feel like I can just give up." A human emperor realm magic weapon worth 5,000 top-quality spiritual stones, auctioning to 10,000 is already a sky-high price. Anything higher is a luxury. When the price piled up to that, they were worried that something might happen and repeatedly reminded Yichen, but this guy didn't care. He was sure that Xianxia would continue to raise the price. As he expected, the price kept increasing. Now it has reached more than 13,000 top-grade spirit stones, quite terrifying. Yichen also sighed. In fact, he also felt that he had reached the peak. If he bid again, Xianxia would be angry and refuse it, and he would lose a lot. Although this Taixian sword is good, this price is far beyond the standard. Bang! Bang! However, after waiting for a few breaths, the imagined bidding did not happen. Instead, he waited for the sound of the auction hammer falling. This time, Yichen couldn't sit still. His eyes widened, he stared at VIP room number 4, a storm surged in his heart, and he shouted wildly, "You are really bidding, I swear, if you bid a little more, I will not take it even if it is a top-grade spirit stone." Xianxia in the VIP room number 4 had a sneer on his face. Earlier, he really wanted to get it at any price, even if he paid twice the price. After all, there were too few swords of the teacher who matched him, and he couldn't miss it when he met it. Who knew that the boy deliberately made things difficult for him? He played tricks on him repeatedly. It also made Xianxia angry. Now he watched the auction hammer fall indifferently, with only a sneer in his heart. This is it. Give up. Give up. The elders in the VIP room number 4 also breathed a sigh of relief. Although there was some disappointment in their eyes, they knew that Xianxia was going to give it to Elder Chu, but the price was really too high. Just in the last second, Xianxia was hysterical like a madman, and he looked like he would not give up until he got it. The next second, he returned to indifference and looked down expressionlessly, obviously playing tricks on the other side. Not bad. Fortunately, the young master didn't lose his mind. That kid is done for now. They all laughed softly, but Xianxia narrowed his eyes slightly. Giving up was not his character. That kid dared to play tricks on him. He would let him know what regret was after leaving the Wanbao auction house. Obviously, at this time, Xianxia had already thought of robbing. If Chu Xun was there, he might be stunned, but he would definitely not be surprised, because isn't this the usual style of villains? If everything is in accordance with the rules, is he still a villain? Chapter 18 The Victim is My Disciple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion, an old man with an immortal demeanor sat cross-legged there. The moonlight shone through the window and shone on him as if he was about to transform into an immortal and ascend at any moment, and a strong wave came from the whole body. Even with your eyes closed, there are also ripples. The 5th level of human emperor realm, it's done. Chu Xun, who had his eyes closed, opened his eyes, showing a strange color, no sadness or joy, because this was all within reason, and he had been sitting in the Sutra Pavilion practicing for several months. Every day is nothing more than reading scriptures, enlightening the Tao, raising swords, practicing calligraphy. Wind and rain will not change, cold and heat will not change. It would be weird if you can't break through with such diligence. At this time, he had a small breakthrough in his realm. He only felt that he had many insights into his palm skills and sword skills. Close your eyes, the mind is filled with endless sword intent. If before, his sword was still stuck in the river, now I feel like I can see it. It can be integrated into kendo as much as possible. Flowers and plants can be integrated into the way of the sword. Plants and trees can be integrated into the way of the sword. The breeze can also blend into the way of swordsmanship. All of these can be integrated into the meaning of the river sword, so that it no longer adheres to form and is trapped in the artistic conception of a river. This is a completely new transformation of state of mind. not just sword intent, there are also palm techniques. Earlier I was still a little confused about the 8 desolate palms, now there are so many insights pouring in all at once, just wanted to understand. Then I heard a guest coming from the 8th floor. Elder Chu. Chu Xun suppressed the feelings brought about by the breaking point in his heart, and opened his eyes to see an old man in his 60s walking towards him. It was Elder Sun who had been entrusted by him to send and sell for auction. Elder Sun. Chu Xun nodded gently. Elder Sun also noticed the artistic conception spreading from Chu Xun, and said with a slight hesitation, Elder Chu, if you have any insights, you can just realize it first, don't worry about me. It's not too late. Let's finish talking and leave. How's it going? Chu Xun's eyes were warm and peaceful. Ha ha ha. Great. I'm afraid Elder Chu can't even imagine how much this Taixian sword can be auctioned for. Elder Sun was amazed. In the past, he would have given up on it, but now he also knows that Chu Xun, at the juncture of his cultivation, only used concise words to explain the matter. Tell the story. Garrulous. This is 6,000 holy stones. And there are things you want to bid on. It's all in this void ring. Sun said goodbye first. Elder Sun laughed aloud and left the Sutra Library in a good mood. He originally wanted to have a good exchange with Elder Chu. He came in and was confused about his practice. However, he saw that Elder Chu was at a critical moment, so he couldn't disturb him. He secretly thought in his heart, the artistic conception surrounding Elder Chu is very strong, and it doesn't look like he has entered the human emperor realm for the first time. Could this be the effect of 60 years of reading in the Tibetan scripture pavilion? An epiphany, accumulate but gain little, there is envy in the eyes. I know that a strong man will appear in Donglin Holy Land soon. After Elder Sun left, Chu Xun was not in a hurry to get the void ring. Instead, he closed his eyes, falling back into the previous sedimentation. The palm of my hand is also surging in my heart. His understanding of palm techniques has improved by leaps and bounds, but not for long. Master! Master! Another shout came from the 8th floor of the Tibetan scripture pavilion. No need to think about who it is, just an apprentice. Then he saw Xianxia walking towards him with his face glowing red. He didn't hesitate and said with a smile, Master, I attended an auction in Tianbao City a few days ago. I fell in love with a divine sword that seemed to suit Master, so I took the photo. Buzz. The simple and ordinary Taixian sword, suspended on the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion. Chu Xun, who was practicing, was stunned. Gradually, he looked at the disciple with strange eyes. I just heard Elder Sun say that the reason why the Taixian sword was auctioned for a sky-high price was because 2 barbarians were facing each other. One of them was put in a fight and suffered a heavy loss, thus winning the Taixian sword. Could it be that, is the enemy my disciple? Immortal Sect, Main Hall. Yi Chen, who was seriously injured, looked pale, breathless, and said weakly, Uncle Zhao, this junior saw a magic sword at the Wanbao auction house. He wanted to take a photo of it and give it to the master. Unexpectedly, Chen Yaojin appeared in the middle and kept making things difficult. I was determined to have this divine sword, so much so that I paid a sky-high price. I wanted to spend money and eliminate disasters. As long as I can give something like this to Master. It's nothing. Who knows? That was actually my former enemy, Jiang Chen. He relied on the fact that he was the eldest brother of the Donglin Holy Land and the eldest son of the Jiang family. With his servants by his side, he directly injured me and a group of senior brothers and robbed them. The Taixian sword obtained at auction. Snort. That moment, a strong fire filled the hall. Which Uncle Zhao? A head full of red hair. His eyes were fierce. He gritted his teeth and said, What a Donglin sect, so arrogant. How dare you instigate the disciples in the sect to rob my immortal Dao sect disciples openly? Are you really deceiving my immortal Dao sect? Call out. A violent aura rose from his body. Soar, head straight to Donglin Holy Land. Yi Chen, who pretended to be innocent and pitiful in the hall, let out a long sigh, but there was vicious hatred in his eyes. If it hadn't been for the strong attack in Donglin sect last time, the senior demon king in the ring fell into a deep sleep. How could he be robbed, and now he is eaten? Men Kuei had to get him back no matter what. He was no match, so he let the old guys from the Xiandao sect fight with them. An elder from the immortal sect tried to dissuade him. Wait a minute, that there was a blazing flame in the eyes of the red-haired old man, and he sneered, brothers, there is no need to stop me. I have long wanted to enter the Donglin Holy Land to see who is in the scripture depository pavilion. Is it the Chu who has been inactive for 60 years? Ask, there is still someone else. Inside the Sutra Pavilion, after hearing the whole story, Chu Xun was also surprised. He didn't expect such a result. Jiang Chen's behavior was still expected, but the result was unexpected. From the experience of the previous life, when the villain went to rob the protagonist, he was usually pretended to be a pig and eaten by the tiger, and he was severely pretended. Who would have thought that today the robbery would be a matter of course? He took a look at his apprentice's luck. Youlian is much more solid than before. I'm afraid that if I step on the protagonist a few more times, the destiny protagonist will completely solidify. I also thought to myself, it seems that as the fortune of the destiny villain increases, the fate of the protagonist is a bit uncontrollable. If I look at the life evaluation again, I am afraid it will be different, but with the character of the protagonist, I have suffered such a big loss, I'm afraid. You won't just give up, will you? In my thoughts, the east gate of Zongshan suddenly trembled, rumble, a terrifying aura swept through the mountain gate, and a powerful red stream of light swooped down and hit the East Holy Land, creating a strong shaking feeling. Circles of ripples resisted it, making the practicing disciples all look at the mass in shock. There is an old man wrapped in the red figure, with a fierce look, and the person who comes is not good. Chapter 19, Raise an Army to Hold the Culprit Accountable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Donglin sect Xianxia, get out of here, that the sound is rich, rolling like a tide, permeated above Donglin sect. In an instant, the elders and disciples who were practicing were all startled. They turned their ears and thought they heard wrongly, and asked in shock, Senior brother, go crazy. Come to Donglin Holy Land to challenge Senior brother. This is no ordinary disciple. Not only is he the face of Donglin Holy Land, but he is also the eldest son of the Jiang family. There is no way that ordinary people can provoke him. This kind of background is not much different from walking sideways in the Eastern Territory, dong dong dong. A dull trampling sound, only seen, the figure standing in the red luminous mass was like a demon, trampling over. It only took a few steps to break into the top of the Donglin Holy Land. Under the pressure of the human emperor realm that filled the air, many disciples in the sect were stunned. His blood surged up, his throat felt sweet, and he deeply felt the power of the human emperor realm. Snort, a white-haired old man came lightly and stood in front of Zhao Huangchao. He said coldly, it would be too presumptuous for the elders of the immortal Dao sect to break into my Donglin Holy Land. Roll, the red-haired old man's pupils were filled with fishy smell. There is anger in my heart, anger, all sorts of things. A wave of sleeves, a huge tornado roared away, and the wind blew. Every wind was a terrifying sharp blade, enough to tear apart the body of the venerable realm. And this tornado composed of billions of winds, even the human emperor realm would have to retreat. Puff! Puff! The old man with the immortal wind hurriedly backed up, his clothes were torn in many places, and the wind split his skin, and red blood flowed. Although the injury was not serious and would heal quickly, the red-haired old man opposite him did not. I haven't tried my best. Old monster Zhao entered the sixth realm of the human emperor. No wonder you dare to come here alone. This immortal old man's face darkened. You must know that there are only two people above the sixth realm of human sovereign in Donglin Holy Land. One of them has just retired for his birthday not long ago, and the other is sitting in the forbidden area of Donglin Holy Land. Unable to move easily, even if there was a huge palm print on the back mountain some time ago, the elder could only send out a clone to look at it. Is it difficult to ask him to come out now? For a while, his face was ugly. TSK, a sarcastic smile appeared on Zhao Huangchao's lips. If he dared to do this, he would be crushing the level of Donglin Holy Land. Among the 5 human emperors, 3 were not afraid, one was in seclusion, and one was unable to move. In this case, only then did he dare to barge in unscrupulously. He sneered contemptuously, take one step forward, go straight to the Tibetan scripture pavilion. There was ruthlessness in his eyes. He wanted to see if the human emperor was actually Chu Xun. If it was really him, he wouldn't mind taking this opportunity to destroy this person, or even kill him, to completely eliminate the Donglin Holy Land. Thoughts. Arrogant. Arrogant. Just a moment, several figures were filled with coldness. Aha! Xiao Rongyu, who was practicing in the leader's place, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with unparalleled coldness, and his figure appeared in the sky in a flash. He saw through Zhao Huangchao's details at a glance, and wanted to take the opportunity to attack Chu Xun. There was a coldness in her beautiful eyes. The person she wanted to bully her in Donglin Holy Land was because they thought Donglin Holy Land was too weak, or because these people had looked down on the declining sword god of the past. Little doll. You are too weak. The Four Realms of Talent Emperor. No match for me. Zhao Huangchao snorted and struck with a palm print casually without using the killer. His purpose was to force the human emperor from the Sutra Pavilion. If possible, he would kill him with the opportunity, but if he killed the elder of Donglin Holy Land openly, not only if the two sides were to go to war, he would never be able to get out. Not to mention the human emperor, who was still above him in cultivation, he would not be able to bear even the formation opening. There are details hidden beneath the seeming recklessness. Lived a lifetime, sure enough, they are all human beings. Zheng. A strong sword energy slashed down, like a phoenix with spread wings flying across the 9 heavens. It tore the palm of his hand in an instant, and continued to attack Zhao Huangchao without losing its power. Zhao Huangchao frowned slightly. He didn't expect this little girl to be so powerful in combat. If there was a head-to-head confrontation, there would be no doubt about the outcome, so he said that his purpose was not her, and avoided the sword light and went straight to the scripture-tiding pavilion. Inside the Jing pavilion, Jiang Chen's expression darkened, the joy on his face was gone. Looking at Zhao Huangchao, he felt like he was in a deserted place. Sweep all the way, go straight here. He felt inexplicably guilty in his heart. He didn't expect that his reckless actions would cause such big trouble to his master. He just thought of robbing Yi Chen that day. With his identity, the immortal Dao sect could still attack this brat. Come or not, in fact, Xiandao sect is more decisive than he thought. Sorry. Master. I've got you into trouble. Jiang Chen lowered his head and apologized. The words just fell. Call out. His figure went straight to the outside of the Sutra Pavilion and stood in mid-air, staring at Zhao Huangchao with an indifferent expression. He did not believe that this old monster really dared to kill him. As the eldest son of the Jiang family and the senior brother of Donglin Holy Land, if he dared to make a fatal move, both sides would be destined to fight to the death. Ha! Zhao Huangchao's eyes flashed with surprise. He essentially wanted to cause trouble for the people in the Sutra Library, but he didn't expect Jiang Chen to be here. Although he was surprised, he smiled even more and said cheerfully, "Little bastard, you robbed the sword that my nephew wanted to give to my senior brother. You deserve to die. Considering your young age, I will hand over the magic sword and give you a palm." Bang. He slapped lightly. Jiang Chen's pupils contracted, there was horror in his eyes, shocked, bewildered. He never thought that although Zhao Huangchao didn't dare to kill him, he had the idea of crippling him. If this palm landed on him, he would be disabled if not dead, and it would take at least several years to slow down. But by then, with the changes in the cultivation world, he would have become a marginal figure, struggled to separate, expected everything, even if he had entered the realm of the venerable, still unable to move. Witnessing the palm getting closer and closer, the fear in the pupils was also spreading infinitely. Bang! Just as he was approaching, an old Taoist figure stood in front of him and blocked the palm for him. The old man turned around with a kind look in his eyes, gently rubbed Jiang Chen's head, and said with a smile, "With Master here, how can I allow outsiders to hurt you?" Chapter 20, Kill with a Casual Shot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's you. Chu Xun. You really are not useless. After seeing the figure, the worries in Zhao Huangchao's heart disappeared, and all kinds of relief emotions came to his heart, and those doubts and puzzles were relieved. Jiang Chun became a disciple of Chu Xun, so he could understand why the Jiang family made so much noise. A supremely romantic figure who used to look down on the eastern region, tied himself up for a period of time, broke and then stood up, which represents a rich potential and is worthy of such a big movement from the Jiang family. It was Chu Xun who broke through. The sword intention of the river can also be understood. Chu Xun used to practice swordsmanship, but now that he has broken through the knot in his mind, he escapes into the human emperor realm and has an epiphany by the river, leaving a brilliant divine sword that melts into the river for the disciples and his sect to practice. It is even more understandable that the fat and thin venerables sneaked into the Sutra Pavilion and killed them silently. The one who took action was Chu Xun, who was in the human emperor realm. Not to mention that those two were only in the venerable realm. No matter how strong they were, the outcome was doomed. Let out a breath, the thoughts in my heart ran through me instantly, all kinds of clarity came. The clarity in my eyes is also blooming. In the east of the Holy Land, the old man in white, the leader Xiao Rongyu, and the remaining human emperor realm all showed worried looks on their faces. Chu Xun saw that breaking through the knot in his heart and escaping into the human emperor realm was a secret of the Donglin sect, even to outsiders. There are speculations, but they are not enough to confirm that it is not a good thing to be completely exposed to the sun now. Chu Xun was too arrogant back then, wearing a green shirt and wielding a sword. Offended many people. At that time, Chu Xun's cultivation was so strong that no one dared to say no, but now, after 60 years of neglect, even if he has escaped into the human emperor realm, he has distanced himself from others, which is not necessarily a good thing. Master, Jiang Chen raised his head and looked at the teacher at a close distance, feeling infinitely moved in his heart. He knew that the teacher liked peace and quiet, but to stand up and block everything for him today and stand in the light, how much thought it took. He bowed his head in shame again. I thought that one person would do the work and one person would be responsible for it. Who would have thought it would make things worse? It doesn't matter. It's just a small thing, Chu Xun said calmly. However, Zhao Huangchao sneered. After completely solving the mystery in his heart, the murderous intention in his eyes also grew. He could not let Chu Xun continue to practice and settle for 60 years. If he allowed himself to practice, who knows what extent he would reach. The swordsman wearing a green shirt and wielding a sword still reappeared. Boom! At the same time, to the east is the sect. Several powerful auras descended one after another. The white-haired old man, Xiao Rongyu, Elder Jiang, these three human emperors descended all around in an instant, and even the forbidden area where the Donglin sect's holy land was located was filled with terrifying momentum. A strong human emperor was about to revive. Even though suppressing the forbidden area was an important task, compared to Chu Xun their safety is nothing to worry about. It doesn't matter. Just leave it to me. Chu Xun glanced at the emperors of Donglin sect with gentle and peaceful eyes, and with a casual move, the Taishian sword on the 8th floor of the Sutra Pavilion fell into the void with a trembling sound. It's really not ordinary. Zhao Huangchao's eyes were full of lust and greed. Earlier, he heard that Bo Yi Chen say how extraordinary this sword was, and he didn't take it seriously. Now when he saw it, he was really shocked. No wonder he pushed it to 13,000. The amount of top-quality spiritual stones. Xiao Rongyu was dressed in a bright red robe, with a hint of cinnabar between his brows, and his pupils were cold. Just as he was about to step forward, he was stopped by the white-haired old man beside him. The latter said, "It doesn't matter for now. Let Elder Chu strike out with his sword first." Elder Jiang also nodded gently. 60 years of savings, accumulate but gain little. Hide a sword in your chest, it may not be weak. Moreover, Chu Xun's attempt to destroy the human emperor is already well known. If he doesn't show some strength, he will inevitably attract Xiao Xiao. Now any elder from the Donglin sect's forbidden area will come in person at any time, so he is not afraid that the matter will collapse to the point where it cannot be ended. Xiao Rongyu stood there motionless, but her phoenix eyes were sharp and boundless. If Xiao Huangchao dared to touch a hair of Chu Xun, she vowed to hunt him down in Donglin sect. Everyone dispersed silently vacate the battlefield. the Taishan sword is suspended there, released wisps of human emperors will, the extraordinary nature of the magic weapon is increasingly revealed. Zhao Huangqiao also did not hide his greed. Chu Xun mocked, if you want it, are you worthy? That there was anger and greed on Zhao Huangqiao's face. He was angry at Chu Xun's arrogance and greedy for the sword. He sneered at the corner of his mouth and said, arrogant, I won't be polite if you bring the divine sword to your door. That the white-haired old man, Xiao Rongyu. Elder Jiang, these people vacated their positions and waited for Chu Xun to draw out his sword. They were suddenly stunned as they were looking forward to the sword intention of the river. They stood blankly, their pupils dilated with horror and shock, and their hearts spread like lightning, and they exclaimed, he doesn't ready to use your sword. Ah, Zhao Huangqiao went straight to Taishan's sword, he didn't care what the traps were. If you miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Pitiful, kindness flashed in Chu Xun's eyes. This Zhao Huangqiao is really trustworthy. Is he really deceiving the Donglin sect by rushing to the Donglin Holy Land alone? He slowly raised his palm, and a desolate power spread out, boom, a huge slap as big as a millstone rumbled from the front, crushing everything. Xiao Rongyu and the other two people who were preparing to rescue immediately paused and froze there, their pupils unknowingly dilated, and they suddenly thought of the people behind the sect. That palm print, shocked, is it him? That the power of desolation spreads, rich withering followed, the state of mind spread, depression, darkness, dead silence, all kinds of negative clarity came instantly, swallowing everything. The disciples watching the battle below felt empty in their hearts, and felt that they had no desire to live. If they let this withering devour their vitality, it would be fine. Suddenly, a breeze blew by, blowing away the pessimism in their hearts. One by one, they suddenly widened their eyes and looked at the palm print in horror, their hearts were full of shock. In that brief moment, they actually gave up resisting. You know, this is still a trace of the remaining state of mind that affects them, and what about the enemy under the palm? Zhao Huangqiao didn't care at first, and wanted to take Chu Xun away while taking the sword. He came here with great righteousness. He didn't believe that Donglin sect dared to go to war with Xiandao sect head-on. Who knew that when the palm was out, the sky was filled with desolation? Hiss! At this moment, Zhao Huangqiao clearly felt that his vitality was being devoured. It was not an illusion, but it was really being devoured by the desolate. He didn't know where the desolate was hiding, but it seemed to be everywhere, leaving him nowhere to hide, rolled cheeks, dried up in an instant, sunken eyes, skin and bones, as if his life essence was devoured by evil spirits. The true scripture of the immortal path, that he smelled the danger, and his pupils were filled with intense horror, pinching his hands, the magnificent breath of righteousness came from the sky, like an ancient god or Buddha, unfolding the Dharma image to protect Zhao Huangqiao in it, but it was too late, the khaki palm was approaching. Boom, crushing inch by inch, the Dharma image of the light of the immortal Buddha flowing on his body gradually dimmed, and the fear in Zhao Huangqiao's eyes continued to grow, and his flying red hair was messy. He had a premonition that he would die under this palm. How could it be possible? How could it be possible? He had just broken through the human emperor realm not long ago. Crack, a crack spread, more and more cracks spread, it took only one breath to completely shatter. Bang, at the same time, the khaki palm slapped down mercilessly, it hit the latter's body, it exploded directly, puff. In the sky, a cloud of blood mist filled the air, the surroundings fell into a strange dead silence, whether it was a disciple, or the human emperor, all were dumbfounded. Zhao Huangqiao, who entered Donglin sect as if there was no one in the world, was killed in an instant. Everything just now seemed slow, but it was actually completed in a flash. It didn't take much time at all, but he was killed in an instant by Chu Xun's palm and completely exploded. One by one, the eyes moved again, shifting to the calm old Taoist, with only endless admiration, killing a strong enemy without changing his face, and killing the human emperor with peace of mind.